We're at Hoover's Butchery in Singapore, which is the only butchery in the world to sell cultivated meat.
Hey everyone, in today's video we're going to go through a talk about Eat Just from Andrew Noyce. This video is about 6 months old, and this is when they were launching their version 2 chicken in Singapore. Now they should have their version 3 chicken, and they also by now should have a 60,000 liter bioreactor in operation in Singapore. So it's a little bit old, but it still gives some great insights into how they're starting in Singapore. Let's get into the video.
I'm Andrew Noyce. I lead global communications and public affairs for a company called Eat Just. It's the parent company of Just Egg, which is a plant-based egg company, and Good Meat, which is a cultivated meat company. From where we sit, we're also at pilot or demonstration facility phase. And I think there's a really interesting question. We don't have to unpack it here, but a lot of people talk about, oh, we're at pilot stage this, pilot stage that, this many liters, but there's really there's no standardization of what that means for a company, right? So we have been producing with a partner at the 1,200 liter stage. We are about to commission our pilot facility that has a 3,500 liter bioreactor. We're putting the finishing touches on a 6,000 liter bioreactor that we're going to ship to our facility in Singapore. And we're currently designing and making plans for our first large-scale facility that will be in the U.S. And the foundation for that, we believe, will be a series of 250,000 liter bioreactors. So it is a step-by-step process. I think there's a lot to unpack when it comes to the capacity that a particular company has at a particular stage, and there are so many I'm not a scientist, disclaimer, but there's so many challenges that come with scaling up, even from lab stage to pilot or demonstration stage, and certainly to commercial facilities.
Let me stay with that for a second. Back to you, Andrew. I want to hear your thoughts. Blending consumer into the practical and the engineering side. If you're given a choice to produce it, let's say 1,000 liter, 5% PCV or something like that, and then you're producing an excellent product, but you have the opportunity to go to 50,000 liters, maybe lower productivity, and you got to blend it with a lot of plant-based products or what have you. Maybe it's just lower sensory score, let's call it that. What's your choice in that moment, like from an operation standpoint? Do you see them as the same product? Do you release them both? Are they, like, how do you position that? Because I don't think we're still wrestling with that as a field.
It's an interesting question, and I will borrow from the other side of our company, Just Egg. It's an iterative process. It's an evolution with the product. We launched our first Just Egg product in market nationally in 2019. We're now about to launch version 5 of that, and we're never satisfied. It's always getting better. But I think I don't know how to answer that question. I mean, I think if we are actively serving this product that you mentioned, hypothetically, to consumers in a restaurant setting, say, and it's their first experience with cultivated meat, I would say we want to put our best foot forward. We want to have the tastiest, the most fibrous, most chicken-like chicken you could possibly have. So if we're producing at a smaller scale with higher quality, and it's our customers' first shot at this, I'd probably go with that and continue to work on the larger scale.
And what is enough of a percentage to be meat in or anyone that wants to jump in? I'm super curious.
I mean, I can tell you what our threshold is, because the Singapore government has told us. When we launched our first in the world cultivated chicken product in December of 2020 in Singapore, it was a lower percentage of what we're allowed to sell now. We got an additional follow-on regulatory approval about halfway through this year, and or maybe at the end of last year. Time is a weird construct.
It's a flat circle.
Yeah. But essentially, right now, the meat the chicken that people are eating in Singapore is 75% chicken, and the rest proprietary plant protein.
I really do think we're going to see a world where we have a lot more of these hybrid products. We might even have 50-50 in terms of plant-based proteins with meat.
what if I started with a cell that was genetically salmon, but then I made it taste exactly like chicken? Did I win?
You wouldn't sell it.
No, I'm serious. So, well, I mean, like, we're getting to, so I would say I can break, I think right now, this field is in a what meat is phase. Like a recapitulation of the fundamental characteristics of a sensory experience related to meat. I think we can agree to that. There will come a time, and I think this will be an interesting, and I have no prediction on timing, of what we move into a phase of what meat can be. And that is where things get interesting, because I think the definitions we rely upon will be stretched or changed or challenged. And so I don't know, somebody in this room might be the first person to do that. It might be someone on stage. But I think, again, it's going to get down to legal, regulatory, and then consumer perceptions. But you're right. I think we can all agree, if consumers don't eat it, it doesn't matter. And so that's the goal.
Yeah, and the answer might be even more simpler, right? So you can say, well, actually, the origin of that meat, it's an animal who wasn't slaughtered, then it's not a meat. And then the battle is lost from just beginning.
So again, moving into in the consumer space, looking ahead, obviously I think the name of the space is evolving as the space evolves as well. And some of the things we found, Andrew and I were talking off stage around this idea of how even we're portrayed still as companies in the space around this notion of how the idea of what is appetizing to a consumer is different from potentially with press or certain members of the press, or for example, or this idea that it's still labby. And I wanted to know thoughts from you all. Is that something y'all think about when you're pursuing how you present yourself to the world? Is it something you don't care about, like that? For example, lab coats or the construction of a facility and how it's presented to the world. Like, how do you think about it? Maybe Andrew, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I mean, I think fundamentally it is very important, first and foremost, to be transparent about how we're making the meat that we're all making. And the fact that it starts in a lab is not dissimilar from most other food products we consume every day. I had a protein bar backstage that started in a lab. Diet Coke starts in a lab, but this particular industry, because of where it is in the chronology of the space and where it's come from and the fields that we've borrowed from, there is just this like people are captivated by the lab, and I think as companies get closer to market and have products to show and tell and taste, it's incumbent upon all of us to help reframe that narrative and show them. I mean, our pilot facility, our demonstration plant in Alameda, looks like a big beer brewery. And at commercial scale, all of these facilities are going to look like large-scale food production facilities. And when we plate it up for people, we want it to look, taste, smell, the whole sensory experience. We want it to be meat. Again, our experience in Singapore has been varied. When we sell our product, whether it's at a fine dining establishment or a roadside hawker stand, or via Food Panda food delivery, which is like a DoorDash or Uber Eats of Asia, we're very good about collecting consumer feedback. It's a huge part of this process. It's a reason that we're out there selling product right now at a loss, is because that experience is really important for learning. And what we've encountered is that consumers age 30-ish or under have zero problem when they find out that when they find out that the meat that they're eating is grown in a large stainless steel vessel. They see it as a positive. But then, it's the older generations that you have to convince a bit. And my favorite example of that is one of our hawker owners. He owns a roadside stall. His name is Mr. Liu. His roadside stall has been in business for 75 years. We approached him and said, how would you like to put cultivated chicken on your menu? We had to explain to him a little bit about what cultivated chicken was, and he didn't get it, so we just gave it to him. We said, cook it, eat it. He cooked it, he ate it, end of discussion. He's a convert, and we did a pop-up at his hawker stand, and there was a line around the block. of all demographics of people who wanted to try it.
So the lesson is get on market.
Get on market.
Okay. All right. End of conference.
Even at a small scale, because we also all need to be realists here. What we're selling right now is an incredibly modest amount of chicken. So it's one of the reasons that I was really excited as we talked as a panel before we got up here that we would change the name of this session from lab to shelf to from lab to table, because it's going to be a while before we're on Safeway shelves, but we can be on tables at Mr. Lou's today. Let's loop back to consumer perception, because I brought a video of consumers in Singapore reacting.
Seamless transition.
Reacting to cultivated chicken at one of those hawker stalls. Go for it.
Smells like chicken. Let's see if it tastes like chicken.
There you go.
Wow, look at this.
Thank you. Let's dig in.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay, so this is a cultivated meat, which at first I thought that it was like, plant-based or vegan, but it's actually not.
The cells are alive.
Cells are alive.
We take it from the chicken to make this. So basically there's no live chicken involved.
When I bit into it, it was really soft.
The texture's fantastic.
It's like a nice moist chicken.
I mean, I would never have known. You know what I mean?
It's like?
Chicken.
You like it?
I mean, the flavor is incredible.
It is so tasty, right?
I used to do cell culturing in the lab, so I used to grow cells.
So you could have grown one of these.
And like we talked about, I think texture is like the most important thing, right? I feel like because there's so many people that I think they fall short with that, but it's really, really great.
I feel so comfortable eating it with the idea that we didn't have to kill the chicken for it.
Wow.
It's great.
Really incredible.
So it's not like chicken.
It is chicken.
Right. It's not a vegetarian product. It is chicken.
Guys, this chicken satay is so good.
This is so great.
Legit. Chicken.
Just, like we talked about, I mean, it's the future.
I wish we could listen in on all of those conversations that people have when they try it for the first time, because all of them are like that. And it's friends explaining to their mother or their aunt or their sister that this is actually chicken. No, it's not plant-based. No, there was no animal killed. So it's just a really fun experience to watch unfold. Thank you for indulging me.
Wonderful. We're going to turn over to questions. So if you got some on any of the things we've talked about, I'm super curious to hear it. First question coming in from Upside.
Hi, Jessica Helper, Upside Foods. Thank you. That was a wonderful talk. I think a lot of us on the commercial side, I work on product at Upside, know that we are going to have many optimizations of our products, especially as we get closer and closer to parity. And that is fine. It's a new technology. But I come from traditional food. I come from CPG. We know that consumers can be unforgiving sometimes, even if they're very excited by this technology. So how do we make sure we're taking them on this journey as we improve this process over the next 5 to 10 years?
Wow.
Jump in.
You're welcome.
Jump in.
It's a good question. When one of our guests posted on Instagram about her experience eating cultivated chicken for the first time, and I was watching it this morning, and she was going on and on about it, and she did a close-up of it, and I was like, oh, please don't do a close-up, because the texture is not there. But just a couple months from now it will be, and then come back and eat it again and do your close-up again and post it on Instagram. But I think I think consumers, especially with products, innovative alt-protein products, they're becoming more used to these product categories getting better over time. I grew up eating veggie burgers in the 80s. They were nothing like the Impossible Burger is today. And so I think, and the plant-based milks that we have now, and hopefully someday a great plant-based cheese, it's going to be an evolutionary process, and I think consumers will come along for the ride because they're hopeful and they're excited that these products will come to market and just get better.
And I think a lot of the things that we end up figuring out will bleed over into other adjacent fields in ways that probably almost certainly can't predict. Other food producers or alternative, pick your adjective, will figure out how to use that in a way that will make their products better. I'm sure we'll be industrial fermentation for something we can't conceive of today, but you'll figure out how to do it.
So that's Eat Just, and I'll see you in the next video.